Thank you, ma'am. Now I would like to invite Mr. Avikaran and Professor G.K. Murthy to present their paper on communicating corporate social responsibility on social media, a systematic literature review.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank everyone for being here, and I would also like to thank the conference organizers and the institute for organizing this conference.
Avikaran, before you start,
Yes, sir.
I have an observation.
Yes.
How long you have been in the institute?
So 3.5 years.
So for 3.5 years you are in the institute and you are still using the incorrect logo of the institute.
Sir, I have not used the updated logo.
That's not updated. That's the only logo we have.
I'll change it, sir.
Please,
Okay.
please start.
So, thank you for this opportunity, and I would like to first of all thank my supervisor, guide, who has been kind, considerate, and has guided me in doing this literature review. The topic of today's study that I have conducted is corporate social responsibility, communications on social media platforms, a systematic literature review. So before discussing about what this study is all about, it is important to understand the important definitions because it provides a kind of boundary that is important so as to understand what the study entails and what it does not. Apart from that, it also makes us understand that what could be the possible overlaps. So I would just highlight important points from that. That corporate social communications, it's a process of anticipating stakeholders' expectations, articulation of CSR policies, managing of different organization communication tools, and provide true and transparent information about a company's or a brand's integration. That is about the economic, social, environmental concerns, and it also relates to the stakeholders. Similarly, social media is a group of internet-based application that builds on ideological and technological foundations of Web 2.0 and allow the creation and exchange of user-generated content. So, before talking about corporate social communications and social media, it is important to understand that this concept of CSR is not new. It has been in the academia or in research from 1940s onwards, and after that there was World War and then formation of UN. There again there were certain revolutions, independent revolutions, and then we saw that Brundtland's report, and then the concept of sustainability came. So from there onwards we see a kind of overlap between sustainability and CSR. That kind of clarity is not very much. And then there is a focus on sustainability nowadays. And now we see that CSR as a supplement to that kind of sustainability, that CSR becomes a wheel for the sustainability. So that brings us to the topic of this conference, that is Iccsr CSR, and that also talks about the Sustainable Development Goals. So why do we need to have CSR communications? First of all, it helps in satisfying the stakeholders because stakeholders have certain expectations from the CSR activities of the organization. Similarly, there are can be used as tools that help put the CSR policies for the various stakeholders. It also helps in taking an interactive approach because when the organization interacts with the stakeholders, it helps the organization leverage the inputs from the stakeholders. And overall, that also leads to influencing the stakeholders that might influence overall perception of the stakeholders towards that company or organization. And why studying CSR communication on social media is relevant? Because we see a sudden surge in the number of users of social media. I presume that 90% of us sitting here might have at least one social media page or social media application that we use on our phone. And businesses and organizations have also realized it, and so they have also started using it. It helps in creating a brand image, gaining a corporate reputation, and also converting or transforming consumers' perception who are neutral towards an organization to a more positive outlook for the organization. Apart from that, social media platforms are responsive, gives greater connectivity, and are plural in terms of integration of various kinds of media as well as various kinds of views, ideas, and analyses. So why did we do this study in first place? So as I have discussed the relevance of CSR communications on social media, we identified that there have been a great number of users that have, in recent times have started using social media. There's a growing public concern among the public that organizations through their CSR activities should at least do something about the society. Social media is extensively used these days, but we do not have a clear understanding of how does it affect the stakeholders, affects the organizations, and what are the most effective deployment strategies that the organizations can leverage, or even the users or consumers can make use of. We also found that there's a lack of research as well as there is a fragmented research in terms of there is too much emphasis on social media or there's too much emphasis on corporate social communications. So the literature itself is fragmented. So these were the reasons that we thought of doing this research. Take it. Thank you. So first, we have analyzed the trends of the various CSR communication studies on social media. Then we have identified the various constructs and theories that have been used. Then we have identified the various research methodologies as well as research designs that have been used. We provide implications for managers and businesses and also discuss the future research directions based on our study. So these are the research questions. So the one is we identified the antecedents, mediators, moderators, consequence of communications related to CSR on social media platforms. And second is what are the theories and research methodologies that have been employed in previous studies related to CSR communications on social media platforms. So based on these research questions, we use this methodology where we use keywords. For social media, we also use the terms Facebook, Instagram, social media websites, social networking websites, because some of the studies were titled based on their kind of platform they used. Apart from that, corporate social responsibility communications or corporate social messages, responsibility messages were used as keywords. We included only studies that were between 2022 and 2010, so these are 12 years of research work, only published in English language, and these studies were peer reviewed. 17 studies were additionally added later, so as from the Google Scholar pages, first 10 pages. We dropped 26 based on the quality that we wanted to consider, like we dropped Q3, that is ABDC ranked, or Scopus indexed ranked Q3 and Q4, and we dropped ABDC ranked C and D. C.
You have 2 more minutes to wrap up.
Okay, sir. So, based on this, we identified 80 studies, and these studies, 37 studies were published in 2021. Highest number of studies were in sustainability and Journal of Business Ethics. These were having empirical and conceptual research designs. 43 studies were quantitative, which included experimental survey and content analysis techniques. 10 were qualitative, 7 were mixed, and 4 were conceptual. These are the research designs that were used. This is the list of studies: experimental, survey, content analysis, theories and constructs used. So these were the most frequent theories that were used: communication theory, persuasion theory, consumer engagement, signaling theory. These were the antecedents, consequence, and the studies. So we see there are social media characteristics, communication strategy, dimensions of CSR, and the kind of consequence that were studied. Attitude towards the company, warm is word of mouth. Now it has been transformed in electronic word of mouth for social media, corporate reputation. So we see message type, help seeking, reminder, product claim, investor information, CSR dimension, sustainability, employee related philanthropy. So these are dimensions. There are several kinds of dimensions of CSR. Based on our review of the literature, we identified or we came up with an integrative framework. And this is the integrative framework that we have come up with. That based on the message, its source, its type, its strategy, based on CSR, that is, it's what kind of activities of CSR that are there, what are the dimensions that have been used, what are the CSR strategies that have been used, social media platform characteristics, choice of platforms, as well as the individual factors like age, gender, personality, that serve as an antecedent to important consequence that could be related to consumers, that could be related to organizations, that could be related to reputation that I have discussed earlier. And for such kind of relationship to exist, there could be some mediators that are given in the previous table, and there are certain moderators. So these moderators influence but do not directly go into the relationship. These are the implications. So first of all, this study will help managers and businesses and leaders to take up some decisions related to communicating their CSR activities, decisions related to choosing their social media platforms, decisions related to highlighting a certain kind of CSR activities that they would like, decisions that relates to choosing their communication strategies. And for researchers, they can study CSR communication in various types of industries. So there are stigmatized industries and non-stigmatized industries, like oil and gas and tobacco industry can be studied in comparison to several mainstream industries. Similarly, role of platforms and message fit. So it's also a very important aspect to understand that a lot of times there are very well-intentioned message, but they are not the right fit for the platform. So that can be another future research direction. One important thing is that social media gives users a power. So that helps them to create content, and that's why
please wrap up.
Yes, this is the last slide. So user-generated content and organizational response to UGC, that is user-generated content. Also there is emoticons. So we do not have a clear understanding of how can we use emoticons, though we use them on our social media, but how organizations can use them. The dynamics between social media influencers, interactions between old media and new media. So there are traditional medias and there are still new media. So how do they interact? And how the message format or the media format and the message can be interacting. So that kind of study future researchers can look into. This has not come, but I'll just read it through. The first block is CSR. The second one is social media platform. The third one is individual factors. And as I've discussed, the fourth one is CSR, social media platforms, individual factors, and the message. So as I have discussed previously, the integrative framework, based on that, we say that these are the four pillars on which we can influence the corporate social responsibility communications, and that can help the organizations. Thank you.
Please go back to the graphic slide.
Which slide, sir?
Earlier. Previous one. Graphics. Previous graphics. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So, does the timing of the messages have any impact on the consequences?
Timing of the messages?
Yeah, at what time of the day messages?
Sir, I did not got the chance to have that kind of study. but I'll look into it because mostly the papers that I went through or reviewed discussed about the type of messages or the content, the style or the strategies. So, but definitely I'll get back to it and see.
If you can explore that dimension also,
Yes, sir.
it will add more.
Yes, because there's also one more thing, that is there are scheduled posts. Like
Yeah.
we schedule them earlier.
Yeah.
So that could be another area where we can see.
So that's what I'm telling. Why schedule at a particular time?
That
Yeah.
if you ask me,
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
it's for the convenience of the workers.
So why at a particular time? That's what I'm asking. So that is another area to be explored.
Yes, because social media users are active at different time periods within that same
Exactly,
day.
exactly.
Yes.
So if we can have a clear understanding of the timing.
Yes. I'll get back.
All right. Any other questions?
By selecting the construct, have you discovered, have you gone through any paper which can actually discriminate the fact of impact factors? See, there you might have taken several papers.
80.
It says 80 papers, yeah, right. Few papers may be in the journal A or maybe in the FT50.
Yes.
The few journals may be in the B.
Right.
So, did you find any paper which can actually say while selecting the construct, the impact factor should be given the due weight?
No,
Because
no.
different. That's what I'm asking. I have no idea.
No, actually, sir, my keywords were social media and the kind of platforms, as well as the corporate social responsibility communications or messages. So somehow that kind of paper did not come.
Okay.
Moreover, it came as the inclusion criteria was that both these concepts are there in that paper. Like,
So far, it is equally weighted that we should treat.
but we have dropped the lower quality papers. That is,
Oh, that you said C category is dropped.
Ah.
But still, there are few papers where the impact is very high.
yeah.
That is good. Okay.
And what are the differences?
Like there are certain industries that stigma. I think we all know that what stigma is. That we have a kind of a perception about an industry. Like, so for example, tobacco industry, or suppose oil and gas industry. Oil and gas industry itself thrives on taking out the resources from the planet. But then the kind of sustainability activities or operations that oil and gas industry does somehow conflicts with their overall operations. So it makes them a stigmatized industry. Similarly for tobacco. Tobacco causes cancer and takes away lives. Still, if they do certain kind of activities, CSR activities, that conflicts with their overall goal. So that puts them into a stigmatized industry, vis-a-vis a different kind of industry that are more FMCG based or different products.
And what is the example of non-stigmatized?
It can be anything that is not considered bad for the society, like, or the planet. It varies also depending upon what we are trying to know, what kind of CSR activities we are doing, based on what kind of operations we have.
Thank you, sir. I just want to ask you, which platform is more relevant to CSR activity?
See, answering this is very difficult. First,
My second question is, what is the role of keywords? And you have not mentioned the hashtag. Like hashtag, trending hashtag also impact the role of performance.
Mhm.
So will you elaborate about these two questions?
you will see viral message propagation sharing, the last one. Shares, likes, replies, right? Asymmetric, symmetric type of messages. Even hashtags and taggings, media tactics. The last.
So what you have mentioned, it is all about the engagement.
Right.
I'm asking about the promotion. How we will promote CSR activity in a social media platform?
Okay. Let me try to answer this. First, there's no one size fits all kind of answer to your question, because different CSR messages can be used or shared on different social media platforms. That is the right fit for that kind of message. That will also depend on the organization's communication strategy, whether it is a persuasive strategy that we want to follow, is it an appeal, or a different kind of strategy, whether we want to have dialogue with the users, or whether we want, as an organization, I want to directly share information. Based on these criteria or these considerations, we can choose a particular platform, but there is no single answer to your question. First is that. Second one, engagement is very important for the organization. So any post or any CSR communication is intended to create a customer engagement or stakeholder engagement. So if I talk about, which is not the basis of this study, there are the number of hashtag is 3. An optimum number of hashtag could be between 3 and 6. Though we use like 10 hashtags, but in studies it has been found that between 3 and 6 it works well. So, but that forms that gets into the area of social media research more. So that's why we said that the research is fragmented. Either it is more emphasized on corporate social responsibility communications, or it is on SM research.
So, sir, according to you, which platform will be more impactful for CSR?
I cannot answer this question directly. That which one is more.
If we go for the corporate, we choose LinkedIn. For photography, we chose Instagram. For video, we chose YouTube. So for CSR activity, which platform will be more impactful?
See, CSR activity can use a video, because you are talking about the media format. Then it will choose a media format. You will see Nike's Instagram page also. You will also find a LinkedIn page also. You will also find a different kind of page also. But then the kind of media format Nike uses while using Instagram is different from the LinkedIn post that you will find Nike's LinkedIn post on LinkedIn, because the media formats are certain media formats are more useful or more effective on a particular social media platform.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Sivananda Senapati.
Good morning all. So I am the last presenter of this section as well as for the conference. So last presenter always some kind of benefits are there, because most of the things are already discussed related to sustainable development, sustainability and say CSR. So I'm just going to put some of my thoughts, some of my ideas on these three important words, you can say. So my topic is climate change, sustainability and sustainable development. But if you see that brochure, some other words are joined with that. So that is not part of my topic. But if you see again in this topic also, there is one word again it is missing, that is CSR, corporate social responsibility. Because this work is a kind of in the working stage. So I am an expert, I can say I am doing research for a long time on this area, climate change, sustainability. But I have included Nitish, our FPM scholar, to do more work on the CSR or whatever discussion happened in this conference also on CSR. So the learning we can join with these three topics, or I can just put that framework how we can proceed in the developing this paper. So topic is climate change, sustainability, sustainable development. If you just go to Google and put this CSR into the Google image search, you can find this type of images, like there may be economy, society and environment. You can find these linkages. Here also you can find how CSR linked to business, your business ecosystem, people. But my framework, I am just presenting this kind of framework where it is sustainability, climate change, sustainable development goal and CSR. So this is kind of framework which I'm thinking that how these four are linked. So I'll just discuss on this. First, let's proceed with sustainability. So already a few things are discussed about sustainability, and Abhi also discussed about the sustainability. So if you understand sustainability, here it mentioned that sustainability basically refers to the use of more renewable resources, or say less non-renewable resources. Or you can just see the red line, it is to maintain a critical level of particular natural ecosystem. So ecosystem here you can take kind of coastal ecosystem, or you can think about a forest, you can think about a river ecosystem. So maintaining that particular stage of the state of the river, or maintaining that particular state of the forest, that we can say a kind of sustainability. So it is basically related to natural part. Or we can say that the word may be coined much later, but the day when the earth came into existence, we can say that day also linked to sustainability. Because sustainability is related to the natural ecosystem. If you have heard about the term called carrying capacity, so we measure it, like in case of river, what is the carrying capacity, so after what stage it cannot recover, we can measure like this stage of a forest ecosystem, we measure this stage of a coastal ecosystem. But in that case, some reasons are there, it is natural causes that affect the sustainability. But if you just read the definition of the sustainable development, which is coined by 1987 by the United Nations, it says that meeting the needs of the present generation without compromising the ability of the future generation to meet their own needs. So if you read this sentence, so here the future generation, so this sentence is talking more about, say, the human beings. So to maintain human being, or to maintain our human generation, so along with sustainability, along with the nature, the human needs are included in the sustainable development definition. But if you see, this sentence is coined in 1987, but to 87 to 2012 is like 35 years if you take. And if I give you an example of this CO2 emission, or these emission which is happening, if you just take if I take you back to 1880, when the industrial revolution happened, so 1880, if you add 100 years by 1980, so 100 years the CO2 emission increased from 280 parts per million to 380 parts per million. That means 100 parts per million it increased. But if you take from 1987, around 1980 to today, it is already reached 500 parts per million. That means after coining this sentence, that sustainable development, or after focusing on sustainable development goal, still in the last 35 years, the CO2 emission has increased more than 100 parts per million. So that's why it's need to think where we are moving, whether we should focus more on the sustainability along with the sustainable development. That's why here I am just putting an argument that sustainable development includes the sustainability, but sustainability may not include sustainable development. So here I am just differentiating between these two, or there may be more understanding required to focus on these two important concepts. Now again, if I just elaborate more on the sustainable development, already it is discussed. So sustainable development, I see it is a kind of path to achieve sustainability. So through sustainable development, we can achieve that sustainability. So sustainable development comprise economic, social development which protect and enhance the natural environment and social equity. So in sustainable development, this equity, justice, these words are included. So it includes your economic aspect, includes your social aspect, as well as the equity and say justice aspect. So even if you think sustainable development, the economic growth and development also comes through that picture. So we many times we see that economic growth is kind of more quantitative things that should require more exploration of the natural resources. But here if you see economic growth is simply, it's kind of efficiency, and efficiency not only related to say one particular capital, it is related to efficiency of human capital, efficiency of natural capital, efficiency of financial capital. So if you just divide in the world in terms of economy, if you see there are certain financial capitals are there are human capital and natural capital, and all are interlinked. So there are models that can use to derive this three link, or what way, how our growth can be sustainable, or what is the best way to use that natural capital or say financial capital. So here all three, or the efficacy of all three, are impacted at various levels of climate change. So here I just discussed sustainability and sustainable development. Now I'm linking that climate change, how it is affecting that sustainable path, how it is affecting all capital, not only say natural capital, it is also affecting financial capital, it is also affecting the human capital. Then economic development, we all discuss economic development. It is more focused towards your equity and sustainability. So if I just give example here, to achieve sustainability or ensure sustainable development path, in case of India, it should be the goal of the whole world. So why I am saying this argument, you see in case of development, we rank where India is in terms of world, we compare, even within the India also we compare all the state where Bihar stand in terms of economic development. Like yesterday also discussion was happening, Bihar is a kind of more consumer state and we need more kind of CSR. But if you see whole India is kind of market to the world. Even a small country, Taiwan, they also sell their product in India. Australia sell their product in India. US sell their product in India. That's why to maintain that sustainable development, the first sentence, to achieve that sustainability in terms of environment, to achieve the sustainable development path, it should be the goal of the, not only case of India, it should be the goal of the whole world. And also same logic follow for the China. That means many times we see China is kind of maybe more, they're producing, manufacturing, they're doing, so maybe it is affecting world negatively. But why they are doing that? Because they are also taking most of the resources or most of the negative which is happening, that they are just taking it in their own way. So that's why the goal what is for India, that goal also should be for the China. Then sustainable development goal, already it is discussed yesterday in detail. So the 17 goals are there. So if you just read all these 17 goals, these basically address that sustainability and sustainability issues, sustainable development issues, so that and to meet the needs of the future generation. So needs are included in this sustainable development goal like poverty, hunger. So I'll not go to elaborate on this sustainable development goal. Now I'll just talk a little more about the climate change. I hope I just discuss you with the sustainability and sustainable development. Now coming to climate change, generally we know that climate change in terms of temperature, precipitation or say sea level rise, but currently climate change is also measured in terms of kind of extreme weather event, heavy rainfalls and cyclones. So not only that related to temperature, not only related to rainfall, even if in small incidents more rainfall is occurring, that we call extreme weather event. So the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, they do a lot of, they analyze whatever the study published in climate change area, they summarize, and these, the IPCC, they're estimating climate change loss in terms of like loss and damage, damage to infrastructure, damage to tourism, damage to financial services, agriculture, livelihood. So all these that we saw in the sustainable development goal, that 17 goal, all these are affected by the climate change. And there are estimation how the climate change is impacting health, there are estimation how climate change is affecting poverty, how climate change is affecting migration. So you can say climate change, earlier I said sustainable development is the path to achieve that sustainability, and now climate change you can see is affecting that path. So it is a kind of problem. So sustainability, then sustainable development, then climate change, the linkage. So the path is affected by the climate change. So what should be the solution, or where the solution lies? So there we can say that CSR will fit more. So I'll come to CSR, but before CSR, some more understanding about the climate change. So if you see the most of the scientific discussion on climate change are based on the GHG emission. Because if you just measure GHG emission or emit the GHG emission, means today some emission is happening from the vehicle or from the some plant that stay in the atmosphere for maybe 100 years. So that's why this is the time of globalization, and developing countries like India need to spend more on the energy, power, infrastructure, transport and urbanization. So we cannot just focus on reducing GHG emission. Because if you see the GHG emission rank, India is one of the most country. But in terms of per capita, our GHG emission is less because we are a highly populated country. But we cannot take any kind of sign that we are going to reduce the GHG emission. But still India is doing. You see India has recently they made commitment that by 2070 will be net zero country. So we are trying to fulfill all these requirements like energy, power, infrastructure. Along with that, India also making commitment to reduce GHG emission or to become kind of net zero. And that was our keynote speaker yesterday talking about the role of the leadership. So leadership role is required to deal with the climate change issue or say sustainable development issue. So, but there is a fear that climate change concern will take resource away from this developmental use. So, developing country want to escape from the climate change issues, but India is not in the position to escape. Maybe the argument is happening, India need more fund for the loss and damages, but still we are taking both the things into consideration. Not only that we are demanding fund for loss and damage, we are also taking steps to increase our renewable resource and to fulfill our energy need by the renewable resources. So now if you see the UNFCCC or the climate change discussion is basically limited to this reducing temperature to 1.5 degrees Celsius. So earlier you must have heard about Kyoto Protocol. So that was like some kind of binding. So all the developed countries, they need to reduce their GHG emission. But that was not successful. So after 2012, after say the Paris conference, now the focus is on we can do all the measure, we can bring EV, we can reduce our dependency on non-renewable resources, we can focus more on renewable resources, but all these are linked to reducing the temperature to 1.5 degrees Celsius, the average temperature. So average temperature from the pre-industrial level it is already increased more than 2%, but if you see the data are coming that 2015 was highest the year in terms of highest temperature, then 2020 break that record, 2012 break that record. So every year your temperature is kind of increasing. So if you take average temperature, it is already reached more than 2 degrees Celsius. So as per the updated NDC, so NDC means it is like a voluntary declarement. So every country now they will decide how much they want to contribute GHG emissions. So there is no binding. And India made the binding that by 2030, so our renewable resources, will reduce our emission to 45% of the GDP, and will maintain our renewable resources, energy to say 40%. Already we have achieved that. In 2021 we have achieved. So our renewable energy resources contribute to 40% of the total energy. The target was up to 2030, but it is already achieved. So here we can say CSR is a necessary, not kind of voluntary requirement, because there are miles to go, we can say, to achieve that zero net by 2070 or to achieve that 45% of the GHG, reducing GHG emission. So the CSR activity need to go in a big way. So organization including corporation must take their public commitment by communicating their ESG. So ESG is kind of environment, social governance reporting. So all the corporate, they need to do it in a kind of more, we can say, ethical way. So environmental sustainability and product stewardship, as well as pollution prevention, use of cleaner technologies should be the goal of every corporate. So, and how this will happen? So this will only happen when there will be a kind of collaboration between, say, academician or export as well as the corporate. In case of report writing, but yesterday also the discussion happened in the panel discussion. What should be the report? What should come in the ESG report? Whether it should be how much money spent on that kind of CSR activity, or how much actually happening in the field. So that require academic involvement. So companies need to set their goals, understanding the social and environmental impact of their action, and communicating about economic, environmental, social governance performance. So linkage between corporates, academician is required, and more research needs to be done on the responsiveness of the corporate in terms of CSR, sustainability issues that will ensure uniformity and standard reporting. So there is now no uniformity kind of reporting. So different country, if you go to ESG report, there are different parameters, indicator they are taking, but more uniformity is required. Like when you say climate change, there is a clear definition or clear indication what should be the GHG emission part, what should be the adaptation part, what should the developing country do, what should developed country do. So similarly in case of CSR, in case of ESG, there need to be more clarification. So these are some of my kind of suggestion or finding. So thank you all.
Lab, yeah. Yeah, Professor, can you tell me, it's a very horrifying stories, right? Well, maybe the 10% of the India or the Bangladesh or the China may be submerged. If you see, on the one side we have 2060 net zero. On the other side, we don't know what will happen, global warming, many more things. As you said, 1990 onwards, probably you have 500% increase in the pollutants and all, whether it's a coastal zone or exclusive economic zone, anything, SEZ or anywhere. I mean, the Even the coastal diversity is getting completely devastated, I hope. So, and you have tremendous work in coastal areas. So can you tell me what will happen with the aquaculture or all the coastal states?
Aquaculture. See, again, if keynote speaker was talking about the technology. How you view the technology? If you take the Ujjwala scheme, we need to, when the international dialogue is happening, even aquaculture, if you see the type of culture was happening earlier and now it is happening, there are many advancements which is happening. So technology is required. So that technology we can ask from the developed countries. Like there are many forums, so where those company or say if government is involving some of the fishermen or say those who are interested to do aquaculture, to send them to foreign countries and learn how they are doing, because there are many small countries, you take Japan, Korea, very small country, but they also do this kind of culture, and their economy also depend on this kind of thing. So the technology transfer will be helpful in that case, in maintaining that aquaculture or maintaining that status of the aquaculture, reviving the aquaculture. Even if you just take the type of fishing which is happening in India, the net which fishermen use, the trawler which fishermen are use, though there are some advancement is happening, but when the fishermen go to the fish, they took whatever available in the sea. Or they may be, their basic focus is to maybe derive the economic efficiency, reduce the cost and derive the profit. So they don't think about environment or climate change. So that there the policy maker need to include that part, that technology part. So more training is required for that. Even same goes for the agriculture also.
I say, is it happening if you take the practices? Now, if you go to the China and all, right, the good number of developed countries and the powerful countries, they are encroaching like anything. Right, they may go up to 400 nautical miles or 600 nautical miles and probably have very devastating impact on the marine biodiversity that you see. So probably technology that you said, the trawls or scanners or any types of advancements in the gears and crafts that you have, probably it's a mixed view. I don't have the unidirectional view that it will have always good impact. The China, they are misusing, you see. India probably it will have in their own boundary, but the China is misusing like anything. And the data you don't know. The data that you get, all is spurious data from the China. Right, one side in the data management, other side the technology has helped them to encroach in the other boundaries. And your sovereign boundary is limited to only 200 nautical miles. What is the status of carbon trading? Can we have the carbon trading?
Well, see, again, China intention, when you said India say that we are going to be net zero country by 2070, so no yes. commitment from the China. Even so developed country also, their commitment, they are not coming out very openly, like we are going to reduce our GHG emission or not. So always there is a kind of second part or option B they are keeping, because many skeptics are there, still related to climate change. There are many natural phenomena also which is occur. Though there are evidences which is the way ice is melting, the rate at which ice is melting is much more higher. So evidences are there, researchers are doing that. But then in case of policy maker, when they sit and they need to take some decision, that is not happening. That's why you can see there are many protests when the G20 summit happens. And yes.
Thank you.
The technology will not help. So even that day I was discussing with the student, there is a kind of scenario which is there. So IPCC has developed kind of scenario. So which scenario you want to prefer? So that should come into discussion first. But they all put that scenario. The IPCC has developed special research and emission scenario. So there are kind of A1 world, B1 world, B2 world. That means if you want to see a world, when the COVID was presented, that kind of opportunity to go back to kind of localization. And it's not that it is not happening. There are certain countries that their focus is also shifting to kinds of localization. So if you watch that, I will suggest everyone, since he also presented about the movie and all. So there is a economics of happiness on YouTube video is there. So watch that video if you can find. So more focus on the localization. So how this globalization and technology is kind of affecting. So if you see the apple from the Kashmir will be more costly, but the apple from the Washington will be less costly in Patna today. So that is due to technology, that is due to the number of flight which is going. So technology of course has made certain things easier, but now the focus is also on the localization. So local technology, focusing on the local knowledge. So like yesterday also it was discussed, so CSR, the role of input from the stakeholder is more important. So in CSR we are talking about SDG, this technology, but what the local ones? So the CSR in Bihar may be different from CSR in the Mumbai. So that local lead, local knowledge, local technology may be more helpful in the future, or that can be a different kind of world if you can focus on. I hope I...
Thank you. Yeah, we need to think beyond whatever we have been thinking to evade this. Because there is no other, there is no word planet B.
Thank you.
Development and sustainability terms. There's one confusion that I always had about sustainability is if I see the sustainability reports of various organizations, there is a discussion on the GRI standards, then there is a discussion on the IFCC, capital-based understanding of sustainability, and then there are SDGs. So we see a lot of different organizations' standards that are being used for communicating how sustainable an organization is. Our SDG at least helps in making the communication more clear and everyone is able to understand. So in terms of the capitals like IFCCs, that they have identified 6 capitals, will it be easier to communicate in that way if we talk about the investment or the economical aspects from that point?
Here what I present about the I present a general term about sustainability and differentiated it from the sustainable development goal. But what question you are asking and reference you are giving to sustainability, so maybe we need to work more on that, because as I said, that is a kind of develop paper is a working state. So we can include more about that sustainability and we can define that, and if you want to work on that paper and develop more. Okay, thank you.
Thank you everyone. Now you all can collect your refreshment from auditorium back door, and we will continue from 12:15 p.m. sharp for valedictory session.